Here at Helmuth Ford, we are a small town dealership with no hassle and no pressure.
Delta Fire and Rescue presents the Delta Haunted House at 109 North Center Street in Delta. Admission is just $10 per person. The Delta Haunted House is open each Friday and Saturday throughout October and on Halloween night from 8 to 10 p.m. Food and drinks will be available for purchase, and now accepting cash and most major credit cards. It's the Delta Fire and Rescue Delta Haunted House, Fridays and Saturdays in October and on Halloween night. Watch Pekin Panther football live right here this fall on Steve Shuttler Media, Facebook, and YouTube with live announcers and an updated scoreboard, plus an area scoreboard to keep you updated on other schools of interest. It's Pekin Panther football live right here on Steve Shuttler Media.
Mayhem Haunted House at 13011 120th Ave in Ottumwa invite you to their second annual Trunk or Treat and Lighted Tour on Saturday, October 12th. Trunk or Treat from 6 to 7 p.m. is free. Lighted Tour from 6 to 7:30 is $10. And get a full scale from 7:30 to 9 for $15 per person. Come find out why Mayhem Haunted House has been voted the best haunted house in Iowa for multiple times. Open for the Halloween season, Friday and Saturdays, October 18th through November 2nd. Cost is $15. Get ready to scream at Mayhem Haunted House in Ottumwa.
Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. We're going live again tonight. We're going to see how this works. Trev is back this week. Welcome back, Trevor. Lots going on this week. We've got postseason baseball. We've got NFL firings. We've got college football, one of the best weekend so far, and probably one of the best weekends of the year coming up until you get to championship weekend. Everything. We got a hurricane hitting Florida, and the two baseball games going on right now. One's 5-0, and then I believe the Kansas City and the Yankees are real close. I've been off of that for just a little bit here. Got the Dodgers Padres game on here, and then hurricane stuff. Just for a few housekeeping things. I heard a lot of good things about going live. I saw several people. They said they liked it. They tuned in just for off and on, and that's absolutely fine. And we just appreciate everybody that does tune in and watch and listen, whether it's live or whatever podcast you listen to, or YouTube podcast player or anything. And again, if you want a koozie, and I've got a koozie right here, you can see it right here. It's got our logo and everything on there. You can message me on Facebook. You can message me on Twitter or X. Or you can email us at morganyouaskforpodcast@gmail.com with your address, and I will stick one of those in the mail, and I'll send it to you. I've got about half a box left. I've used about half a box. Still have quite a few left. I'd love to send some out to some of our fans. Again, continue to rate, like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast player. If you don't have one, I suggest Spotify. That helps us out the most. And again, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching and listening. We want to start with the Cyclones. Pun intended to the hurricane going on in Florida. Cyclone, hurricanes, synonyms there. Up to number 11. Another slow start, down 14-3. But then from then on, they won 40-7. Blowout win. Wasn't really close after that. Historically, that is what the Cyclones do. That they don't always have the fastest start, and especially on defense. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and read articles. I mean, I follow the Cyclones fanatically as anybody. And that is what our defensive coordinator does. He knows that's the script. He's going to figure out what you want to do. And then he's going to take away A and maybe B. And you're going to have to beat him with C, D, E, and F. Some teams are good enough to do that, but most teams are not. And so far, nobody's been good enough yet this year to beat them. Probably the toughest test coming up. Every game's the toughest test because you're undefeated. You're ranked 11. You have people predicting to go to the college football playoff now, winning the Big 12 conference. But this game's the biggest. You win this one, the next game's the biggest. Iowa State's not been 5-0 since 1980. So I'd have been like 8 months old when the season started. Have not been 6-0 since 1938. So we're approaching very much uncharted waters for the Cyclones. And each game gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I thought that was a game that Iowa State typically loses. You know, they've got a little bit of momentum. They get down early. In the past, I think that's a game they would have dropped, and they fought their way back and ended up winning that one, which was good. So, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of predictions of Iowa State as one of the top 4 seeds as of right now. Long way to go. I do think this week's going to be tough. Last I looked, Iowa State's favored by 3, but it's going to be a night game, Morgantown, West Virginia. That crowd's going to be very fired up. I have no idea if Pat McAfee could make it back in time for kickoff. I have no idea if he's even going to try. But, yeah, that crowd's going to be pretty riled up for that one.
And that's what I was not able to go this last Saturday night, but my dad did, my brother did, and others went, and I heard it was the best crowd, best thing in a long, long time. White out, fireworks, white uniforms, and just a packed house. The music was better. The in-crowd interactions are better. And Iowa State is walking into the exact same thing this week. They're doing their Coal Rush game. The stadium looks a lot like Iowa State's. It's the same architect that built it. It's a hard place to get to. It's going to be 98% Mountaineer fans. It's hard. You can't fly into Morgantown, really. You go to Pittsburgh, and then you have to drive in. For most people. I mean, you can obviously get there if you have the resources and want to do that. But most people just fly to Pittsburgh and then drive down to Morgantown. And this is a game that's hard, but if you want to get to your goals at the end of the year, this is when you have to win.
Yeah, Iowa State, this is they're undefeated, so every game, like you said, is a must win at this point. It's going to be a tough one. They've proven in back-to-back weeks now that, like I said previously when I texted you, I know I wasn't able to be on last week, but the past 2 games, those are games that typically Iowa State would have dropped just from past experiences. And the fact that they've been able to find a way to win them, I think, is a testament to Iowa State, the coaching staff. And it's everything that you predicted before the season is right in front of them right now.
Yep. So this is what is crazy about the Big 12. Is it the best conference in America? Absolutely not. Is it the second best conference? No. But looking at the beginning of the year, Iowa State's schedule didn't look real tough. And overall, it's still not real tough because not a lot of teams ranked. But West Virginia is undefeated still in the conference. Texas Tech is undefeated in the conference. Central Florida only has 1 loss in the conference. Now they've lost 2 in a row. But some of these teams that Iowa State, was supposed to necessarily be better than going in are teams that are proven to be pretty good. And then teams that we thought were going to be better, Kansas State, Utah, don't look great. It's kind of flipped a little bit, and we're going to see what we're made of. And I said it, you said it, every game gets bigger, bigger, and bigger. This is 3 straight night games, 4 straight night game next week, or in 10 days against Central Florida. We're going to see what the Cyclones are made of. They've got every opportunity in front of them. 10-win season, conference championship, and we're going to see where it goes. And now you've got people asking questions. Is a 10-win season and not getting to the Big 12 championship game, is that a disappointment? Is an 11-game win total with the bowl game, is that a disappointment if you don't get to the playoff? These are conversations that's never been had before for the Cyclones. Some of it is 14 playoffs. You had to go essentially undefeated, maybe one loss at the most. And just kind of talking college football in general, and we'll talk about this, but all the upsets that happened this last week, Tennessee, Alabama, those teams essentially with the 14 playoff would have been out. But now those losses don't matter. And I heard this talking about with baseball earlier, the regular season does mean less now for some teams, especially teams in the Big Ten and the SEC. They don't have to win every game. They can lose more than once. You think they're going to leave a 10-2 Alabama team out of this playoff? Absolutely not. And they're having meetings and everything in Nashville right now to discuss how to get more teams in. They're going to add teams to the NCAA basketball tournament and that would benefit the Big 12 because of what they've done to help their conference in basketball. They're like the SEC football, but only on the basketball side. And I was listening to this. I was watching a little bit of the Yankees and Royals, and 20 years ago, when only two teams out of each league went to the playoffs, or maybe they just had 3 or 4 instead of 6 like they do now. You had to win 90 to 100 games to get to the playoffs. Now you only need to win 85. So teams like the Royals, the Tigers, the Twins, they can field a team that can win 85 games a year. They can't field a team that wins 100 games every year. And that's what it used to take. And that's why the Dodgers have trouble. That's why the Yankees haven't won a World Series in 2009. You give some of these, the more teams get in, the more chances for an upset. Just like who would have ever thought Vanderbilt would have beat Alabama this week after what they did to Georgia the week before? You just have to get to the playoff. And then, a whole nother argument is, and we've talked about this several times as well, Iowa State goes and wins the Big 12. They get the number 4 seed. You don't get a home game. Your first playoff game is against, it'll be the 5. They're going to be the 4 seed. So let's just say they're the 5. It'll be a team like Georgia or a team like Alabama that beat the 12 seed. And you're going to go play that team in the Sugar Bowl. How do you like to go play Alabama in the Sugar Bowl? It would not be fun at all. But if you could get to that 5 seed or 6 seed, then you get a home game. And even if it is against Alabama and Georgia, they got to come to Jack Trice Stadium December 21st. That's not what they want to do at all.
Yeah, if you're Iowa State, you almost want to get that 5 or 6 seed at this point. I would say if all things work out about as well as they could. And, John Middlecoff, the guy I sent you a video a while back, he was talking about he's not the only one to theorize this, but the Alabamas and the Georgias, they don't have the depth that they used to have because of NIL and the transfer portal. So his theory is we'll start seeing more upsets. Teams like Vanderbilt or the Purdues of the world or whoever, they're probably going to be able to pull off more of these upsets moving forward. So as you mentioned, the regular season doesn't necessarily matter as much for an Alabama or Georgia typically as it would have, but we might start seeing more upsets over top 10 teams than we normally would have in the past.
Yeah, I just meant that, if a year ago, Alabama and Tennessee essentially would be in a playoff game right now. They have to win every game to get in. And if you do, great, you're in. If not, you're out. It's just college football's changing. Iowa has been bit by the transfer portal. And I understand those two guys are not playing. They want to play. But to go play a few games or play a few snaps, some things need to just change. I have questions. Do they still go to school at Iowa the rest of the semester? Or are they just out? Do they do any workouts with the team? Are they out? There's lots of questions there. What happens to these players that are opting out after 3, 4, or 5 games, whatever it is, that they played to preserve their red shirt to play next year somewhere? I don't know the answers to those. I would assume they're not with the team because I have a hard time believing Kirk Ferentz is going to let Caleb Brown work out in his facility and he's not going to try to help his team. I don't know that, but I just have a hard time believing that he would allow that.